On the Road with Legal Talk Network. I'm Laurence Colletti, and it's a pleasure to be here. Today, we're recording from the Expo Hall floor at ABA Tech Show 2020 in the Big Onion. Of course, that is Chicago, Illinois. And we are sitting down with the prestigious, famous, the godfather of legal tech, Mr. Bob Ambrogi. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Laurence. Great to be here.
So you just got done emceeing and putting on this contest, which is now in its fourth year, I believe, correct?
This is the fourth year. Yeah, we did the Startup Alley pitch competition, which is part of a bigger Startup Alley competition that we've done every year for the last 4 years as part of ABA Tech Show.
And it seems to get bigger every year. So every time we look, there's more and more people there and seems to command more and more audience, both on social media and in presence.
Yeah, well, the audience grows. I have to give a big shout out to the chairs of the ABA Tech Show because they got us a nice room. Last year we did it in the exhibit hall and it was kind of noisy and kind of crowded, but so we had our own dedicated room this year and it worked out well.
Excellent, excellent. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you as I was looking around, we're at a technology conference for the law, and there's a lot of products around in the exhibition hall, everybody purveying their wares, and so who was this startup pitch for? Is it for the attorneys that are here trying to discover a new product? Is it for the ecosystem? Like, what was the inspiration behind putting this startup pitch on?
I mean, the original inspiration for doing this was to highlight and put a spotlight on some of the up-and-coming technology companies, the ones that are just getting started, because it was kind of a feeling that in the past, Tech Show has been, in order to be exhibiting here at Tech Show, you have to be a little bit far enough along to afford the exhibit space and all of that. So this was really an idea to create an opportunity for companies that were at earlier stages in their development to be able to come here and show off. I mean, the 15 companies that pitch tonight also get a booth here in what's called the Startup Alley, and they get a very reasonable cost to get in and exhibit here. So they get a lot of exposure, and it's good for them, and I think it's good for lawyers to see what's coming up the pike.
So if we're attending next year, which I think there's going to be a number 5,
just found out today there will be a number 5, yeah.
So if we're attending next year, what kind of, compared to this year, like what kind of companies come to a startup pitch? Like what type of services seem to be pretty popular from year to year?
It's all over the map, really. We go through a kind of a weeding process or a pruning process. A number of companies apply, and then we actually put it up online for readers to vote to kind of narrow it down to the final 15. So they're all over the board. I mean, I think the 15 companies that were there today were the ones that got the highest vote counts from reader votes, and then they get to present today. But the companies that were there today were kind of all over the board. I mean, there was a guy with an e-discovery product, a lawyer who just kind of didn't like the e-discovery products built for big firms and big corporations, and he was a smaller firm lawyer and he built something for himself. A lot of sort of process automation products that help you create documents in a more automated way. So it's really all over the board in terms of the companies that are here.
Well, I understand there was a winner this year.
There was, and we happen to be sitting here with the winners. The winner was a company called Billseye.
Well, Billseye, welcome to the program. That's the magic of podcasting. We were just talking about you guys, like literally sitting in front of you, but the audience had no idea.
Well, thanks so much. We're really happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to talk a bit more about our company.
Well, let's learn a little bit more about you, your names, and where do you work. Obviously, Billseye is one of the places you work, but let's get into the history of the company and the problems that you're trying to solve in the legal profession. So who wants to go first?
Okay, I'll go first. My name is Alcide Honoré. I am one of the co-founders of Billseye, along with my brother, Armond Honoré, who's seated to my right. We started Billseye as an outgrowth of a conversation that we were having. At the time, Armond was doing some technology consulting for one of the gazillion practice management app companies. And, we were just sort of having a conversation, as we often do. And I said, hey, man, you know what would be really cool? Because I use Clio. I really don't want to change to another company. I've been using them for years and years. I think, they're great. I seriously doubt there's something that this company can offer that either Clio doesn't already do or that I feel like having to learn. I said, but, if I could hit a button when a call comes in, so that I knew when it's time for me to send my bills out, that it's a call that I need to bill for, and I don't have to try to reverse engineer a month of conversations through 30 pages of phone logs, that would be super cool. He said, hey, you know what? I know how to build that. And from there, Billseye was born. That's how it started.
That's amazing. So Armond, so you're hearing this problem, and as you're hearing this, the wheels in your head start turning. Now, what's your background here? Like, what like kind of knowledge base did you bring to this project?
So I've had probably about 20 total years in software, and probably 15 years in some level of corporate, software solution design. And so I've done stuff from building hardware systems, large enterprise software systems, for banks and healthcare and such. And, when we were talking, I was basically saying, well, we could do that. And if we did that, probably all we need to do is get into the phone dialer. I just started going all this technical conversation. But I said, ultimately, we can do that. And I think we can really do it so that we can make it really simple and store the information. And so later on, when it is that time to bill, we can start doing things so that we can either integrate with different systems, we can export into a simple like CSV or some kind of export file, so that even if somebody does use not a large, practice management solution, they can still use our product. And we had a lot of conversations for a while, and went back and forth, and just started working through the design of the system and started putting it together, and then back and forth. We still have passionate conversations about features that we should or shouldn't do, but that's kind of how it started.
I'm sitting here wondering what it's like building a company as brothers. I mean, as family members. I mean, does that make it easier or harder?
Well, I'll say this much. I'm the attorney, he's the software engineer. So at least we both have very clearly defined roles, and I truly respect what it is that he does. He respects what it is that I do. So when there is a user side issue or concern, I make sure my voice is pretty loud. And the same is true if there's a sort of software side issue. Early on, I did a lot of work at the Atlanta Technology Development Center. I joined their accelerator program, just educated myself really about what startups are all about, the sort of idea that you try to fail fast. You don't, spend a boatload of money before you know if there's any, market fit, and just really working to see if, hey, is this really a problem for anyone other than myself? So I feel like early on we validated the problem, and so we put a lot of work into trying to make the solution as elegant and simple as possible.
And then in terms of working with my brother, something that I didn't really realize is that, software engineers and lawyers have more in common. We both end up having scenarios where we're working at the last minute to get everything done. You're never complete until you're at the last second. I would find myself up late working at night, working on something, and then find out that he's up late working all night on something of the same thing. So that's one, I think, passion that both lawyers and software engineers tend to have. Is like you got stuff to get done. There's times, there's real deadlines. You can't just always just move it, to the next day.
So what I'm hearing is that through this partnership, you all are still having Thanksgiving dinner together.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would say our relationship has probably gotten even better.
Yeah.
Because now we have a real reason to talk every day.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's great. I mean, a family business. I mean, that's obviously I've known some family businesses in my time, and those could be hit or miss. But sounds like you guys have found your stride. So just what phase of development you're on? So I heard beta when we were discussing right before we hit the record button here, but what does that mean? Kind of define where in the stage of development you're in.
I'll take that one. So I think, in terms of where we are from the software, right, I think we are probably in a scenario where internally we're ready to launch, but we want to get a large amount of feedback from users. So before we actually ask someone to spend their money, that we are, addressing their concerns, and that we have enough, any kind of issues figured out. Obviously, our team has tried to find all the issues we can. However, in software, sometimes you just need those users to see things that maybe you won't have. The other side of this too is that I think there's still a few questions that we have in terms of features that we need to build and data that we need to collect, and getting a larger beta will kind of get us there. But in terms of, I think, where we are, I think we're ready to go to production. It's more of a, what's the final set of features? How do we want to go about solving certain problems? Like if you've got multiple customers, multiple users in a firm, how do we kind of build the enterprise version? Those are kind of some of the things that we want to start trying to solve.
So do you envision it being not just an app, but also an application or software program for the computer that operates seamless? Like, just an example I have is I really love Evernote. I use that on my computer, but also my phone. And for me, sometimes one is more advantageous than others. Is that an ecosystem that you imagine for your product?
According to Armond, building it for the desktop environment is far easier than doing it in a mobile environment. So that is something that we plan to roll out. Something that has been important to us, though, especially at this stage, is to stay really lean and mean. There's one problem we think we figured out how to solve better than anyone else. And so we want to, make sure that we're very careful about, how far we stretch ourselves at this early stage in our development.
But in terms of the architecture, really this is all about data and data management, right? So we have a system that's in place that's designed to scale. It's designed to work on almost any kind of device that can manage data. I mean, as crazy as this may seem, but if you have, a TV that you decide to take a call on or something like that, it's designed to integrate with all these devices. The other side is that what's also important is that we're building it with the capability to integrate with other solutions and other providers. So while, there may be a lot of other companies that have other solutions in this area that are similar, so some of the other, companies at this convention may actually be partners for us. So we'll actually be out here doing our own customer discovery to see what other solutions that we can integrate with that'll actually make our product better.
Yeah, I know Clio has brought on a lot of support organizations or partners through their API. They opened up their API and all these wonderful solutions that are getting built in the backside of Clio to open up the offering, for attorneys that need something just a little bit different.
We've got a beta version of a Clio integration that works already. We just haven't formally rolled it out yet, but that is, because I use Clio, and this sort of started out as a solution for my problems. So, it's like, hey, great, we got it. Now, I still don't want to have to look through pages and pages of call logs. So let's get that thing into the, into the invoice. And so it's been really, it's been at times frustrating, but a really fun and satisfying experience, working on a startup. And, and working with my brother too has really been fantastic.
So you're 2 years in, and how many people now work for Billseye?
How many people work for Billseye? Okay. Really, it's a total of 4. Myself and Armond, and then we have, 2 staff people. We have a software development team that's an outsourced team. They're, out of Hyderabad, India. Armond sort of manages and supervises them, but they're sort of an on-demand resource. So if we're doing something, we need them to step in, we bring them in. If it's something Armond would rather code in-house, then he'll code it himself.
And you're self-funded, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. And any notions for getting some seed capital at some point in the future?
We've had some super preliminary conversations. We want to continue the process of growing organically. But certainly if somebody wants to have a conversation with us, we're happy to take the call or the meeting. And I'm a big coffee drinker as well as Armond, so anybody wants to sit down and have a coffee, we're more than happy to do it any time of day, 24 hours a day.
Coffee is nectar, that is certain. So just one last question for you. With this series of interviews that we're doing from ABA Tech Show, one of the things I wanted to leave with the listener, just reward them for tuning in, is something they can plug into their practice that makes their life easier, helps them make more money, makes them happier, makes life in general better. And so I guess, Alcide, I think this might be a question for you, but Armond, it's certainly open to you as well. In the process of designing this app and trying to solve a problem, being able to sort through your calls much easier, and then taking that information and plugging it into a resource that makes sense to you, from billing, saving time, making you more efficient, just in general concept, maybe outside of your offering through this product, what have you learned about taking calls as an attorney that you can share with an attorney that'll make their practice life a lot easier?
Well, I don't know any lazy attorneys. We work really hard, and with all of the current trends in technology, we're being forced to become more and more and more accessible to our clients. And so on the flip side of that, we got to make sure that we're being properly compensated for all that work. And in my experience, if I don't capture the time I spend working with a client, right around when it happens, I end up losing it. And you know what? If I don't bill for that time, I have no one to blame but myself. Not once in my 12 years of practice has a client called me and said, hey, you forgot to bill me for that call when you were on vacation and your wife was staring at you with the, laser eyes like, I'm going to divorce you if you don't get off the phone. So, just working on, really staying on top of keeping track of those client communications is super important for us.
Excellent. Well, we've reached the end of the road for this episode here today. I want to thank our guests for joining us. Armond, Alcide, thank you so much. Thank you, Bob. So, gentlemen, if our audience, they want to follow up, ask about your product or ask any questions about some advice for, taking better calls with their clients, how can they reach you? Why don't we start with Armond?
Yeah, so our website is onetouchbilling.com, and that's kind of where we have our information. You can also check us out on LinkedIn. You can look for Armond Honoré or Alcide Honoré. We're pretty lucky. It's easy to find our names. If you Google us, you'll probably find us.
All right. And I'll see any additional contact information than that.
Sure. Well, you can reach me via email, alcide@onetouchbilling.com. That's ALCIDE @onetouchbilling.com. And like Armond said, LinkedIn is always a great place for us to interact and dialogue with other, professionals and folks that are interested in learning more about what we're doing.
And Bob, if there's a product out there they want to get in front of everybody for the Startup Pitch Competition next year, how can they find you, or who should they be contacting with ABA Tech Show?
We will be posting information about the next year's Startup Pitch Competition probably late August, early September on the TECHSHOW blog, on my blog, which is lawsitesblog.com. And you can always reach out to me at Ambrogi, AMBROGI, @gmail.com.
Oh, you might want to tell them about your podcast.
And I do a podcast called Law Next.
Excellent. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in. If you like what you heard, please rate and review us in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or best yet, your favorite podcasting app. Until next time, I'm Laurence Colletti. Thank you for listening.
If you'd like more information about what you've heard today, please visit LegalTalkNetwork.com. Subscribe via iTunes and RSS. Find us on Twitter and Facebook, or download our free Legal Talk Network app in Google Play and iTunes. The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by, Legal Talk Network, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer.